All right, y'all. Part 2 of light and dark in God's plan and filling in the gaps. All right. So I grew up with like full light in a matter of speaking up until age 20, 21. And that's when I started going into the darkness. Okay. So looking back, I went from high school to art school to the night shift for about 10 months. And then I went to hair school after that. Okay. If I had to went from high school to hair school, it would have been too much for me. Okay. Just from the switch on the things I was around. Okay. So art school, that was exposing me to different lifestyles and different types of people and cultures and that types of things that I wasn't necessarily used to back in my preppy high school naive youth group days. Okay. So as 18, 19 life began, I started to go out at night. And so as I started to go out at night on Saturday and find these spots that were open for 18 and up, I started to not go to church as much. Okay. So one spiritual essence per se was taking over another spiritual essence. Okay. I was being phased into another type of right in a matter of speaking, or another type of light compared to what the world called light. Okay. So, when I was 18, 19, I found a club called Eden 2000, and I went to this nightclub. It was anyways, that kind of stuff. So I went there sober for a couple years. I loved it. Okay. I loved the nightlife, the beautiful women there, the music, the dancing, every single thing about it. Not being, you don't know anybody there. It's just everything about it was just hitting my soul at the point, right? Because I didn't have all my friends, I guess from high school and such, they all moved away or whatever. After high school, it just went kaput, right? So it was just God pushing me into these areas because I prayed for wisdom and I prayed for this knowledge or whatever, but I didn't know what I prayed for at that time. Okay. I didn't know what was coming on my life when I was praying for this knowledge and this wisdom of the world. All right. So, looking back, my best friend from high school, he gave me weed for the first time, either 19 or 20. And then I smoked weed again with my brother around age 21 or so. And then I got my first bag of weed on my own from in hair school from a girl named Amy. Her husband had it. So I just tried it on myself. So the first time I tried it was with Rob, and I went to sleep at Trees at the Slow Roosevelt concert. And then I learned from my brother later that you have to be taught how to use cannabis and how to be taught how to be high and all those things. Okay. So he taught me how, and it was around that time of getting that quarter bag and all that stuff. And my brother's also the one who first gave me pills to try. He hurt his back in the Army, and he had a pill addiction and an alcohol addiction and such. He died when he was 44 from alcohol abuse. But he gave me pills for the first time, and I gave him meth for the first time. Okay. He introduced me to one type of awakening, and I introduced him to another type of awakening. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what it is for, you to do drugs with your brother or sister, and then you get clean and you don't have those problems anymore, and you watch your brother or sister continue to have problems with the things that you shared with them, it's not something that's easy to live with, people. Okay? So as I got clean. My brother never did, and he had problems with his back and back surgeries or whatever, but these things just aren't easy. This is the type of darkness that we're shown in life, because these things help teach us to help teach others, okay? So the drugs that I've used in my past, I've pretty much done all drugs, okay, except for pure heroin and crack, all right? I've done pretty much everything else. I never shot up meth, but I sure as hell did a bunch of it, all right? Looking back, okay, I was given my drugs. My first meth that I was given to, it was given to me by a dude named Angel. I didn't have a clue what I was taking for the most part. Okay, that same night, I took ecstasy. Okay, I was with a girl named Angela at the time, and we went to Club 1 that night, and I had a fifth of Goldschlager, and that night, when it was all said and done, finally I ran my car into the sidewall, and my dad had to come and get me, and the police were there shining the lights on me. He's like, "You okay?" Blah, blah, blah. And they just let me go. I said, "My dad's coming to get me." He's like, "Well, this dude's probably already screwed." Anyways, that's one of those things where God was like looking out for me, where I should have been like probably arrested or whatever, but it was just, I'm telling y'all, looking back in my life, I felt like I've always been observing, okay? Like when I was doing drugs, I did drugs and meth and X and all that stuff because I didn't have to pay for it, dude. I got learned very early with my cannabis that if you buy this amount and you have this amount of friends, you can get rid of it and get your shit for free, okay? So I did this stuff because I distributed it, all right? I was pretty much the Walmart, all right? I brought the party to the people, okay? Now, the kindergarten thing, when I didn't play with my friends and Monday through Thursday, not drinking the milk and such, that taught me how to live this under the law lifestyle, okay? Because I lived a life of isolation, okay? I chose to grow cannabis illegally in a state. I grew that in an apartment, and I grew that in a house, and I grew that in a buddy's house that I found dead one time. I've had multiple things happen, okay? But I was dumb in one aspect, but I had to be pretty smart in another aspect to do what I have done and to not have gone to prison, okay? Because in my 20s, I was very connected. The guy I worked with in the second salon I worked with, he was connected to the triads, and he was one under the dude who brought everything into DFW for the most part, okay? There was 3 groups who brought the drugs into the DFW community back in the day, okay? And he was one of the 3, and he was bringing in kilos and kilos and kilos of powders and such, and hundreds and thousands of pills, all right? And hundreds of pounds of weed. And this is going on every couple weeks. Is coming in, okay? And it took them like 3 years of conspiracy charges and all this stuff to finally develop, and they finally busted them, okay? And I told you about that time when I was at Area 51 with the boys, and they turned on that whole place, lit up bright. They shut down the music. The DEA came in. They came down the stairs. We went up the stairs, and we got the hell out of there. And then they were busted months later, okay? Just another time where the Lord was looking out for me, okay? But the Lord, it's like looking back where God answered my prayers. He put me into these situations to where looking back, I know that He had His hand on me, okay? He wanted me to go into these lower depths. So when I got done with it, I would feel something and I would go into the light, so-called. Because it's where that light, okay? It's when I got done with that lifestyle, okay? When I got hurt And then I got my breathalyzer for 2 years on my car, waiting for my trial. There's a whole nother story that goes with that, but that's pretty much God putting his hand on me and saying, it's time to stop. You must come out of this, okay? And during that wreck, when I wrecked my car, I was going 80 miles an hour. Somebody swerved in my lane, and I swerved to avoid hitting them. Discount Tire put new tires on the back of my car when I told them to put them on the front because I wanted traction in the front. Anyways, it's all hand of God. And he sent me into that pole, and I hit that pole at 70 miles an hour, and that light filled up my car. And after that point, I was changed, okay? I can't put my finger on it exactly, but my inside, I was different, okay? I'm not the same person I was before the wreck, okay? So after that wreck is when God started to shake me and say, no more of that, okay? Because I used it at a point where I never paid for it, in a matter of speaking. If I did pay for it, it was very, very limited amounts or whatever, because I never liked wasting money on that kind of shit or whatever, okay? The only way I would get it or whatever is if I could get my stuff for free and move it a little bit or whatever. So my days were kind of being phased out. And then when I got hurt and came back, I realized, or one of my good buddies, he took all my business for the most part. And I realized my friends weren't my friends. And I lost pretty much all my old connects from back in the day. Okay. So it was just God. God put me into there, and he took me out. Okay. He took me in there so I could learn stuff about these things, because I will do any freaking drug you put in front of me. I don't care, dude. And this is where you learn. Okay. All this world is being taught or whatever. And this is where that worship of the right and wrong. Okay. Because they're telling me it's wrong or whatever, but I have to go and test all men, the Bible says, at the same time. So as the pastor's telling me this is wrong, I got to do and follow after Jesus. And Jesus tells me to seek after truth. And how do I seek after truth if I can't test all men? I got to test that substance that they're telling me about. I got to test that tree of life, that cannabis that they're demonizing, that the Bible says they're not wise about. I got to test that methamphetamine that people are giving their children all the day long, calling it Ritalin or Adderall or whatever else. Okay? So now that I've been in there and I've quit, I can see why the Bible says, woe to the people who drink the strong drink in the morning and the strong drink at night, talking about your coffee and your wines and such and your beers for Beersheba. Okay? Those things, all right, they were put in my life from God because I asked for them, okay? And now looking back, okay, God has a purpose for those things because he's teaching me about the future and the things that's coming into the millennium, because we're going into a new age of man, and some of us have tinkered into the millennium and have raised our frequency and our vibrations of the body with these substances. And they're letting us know, or helping us know, the awareness that's going on. So these over-the-counter medications, these antibiotics, these antibiotics, these things are helping establish a cloud over your mind, when these other ones help you have that mind-body separation, and to be absent of the body is to be present with the Lord. And we're going to end it here and get into more of after to when I was going into the extreme light. Okay.